welcome to Radio Tiny House. I'm Barry Smith.
And I'm Beth.
And this is the beginning of season number 2.
Yes.
We've decided. Don't know why, you should have a season, but why not? Right?
Well, we took a little hiatus. We were changing up some of our technology, and so here we are.
We did change some technology. We're getting ready to change the space behind us, the space under us, the space in front of us.
Yes.
Because that's kind of what we do.
Yeah. We're still working on our shoffice. We call it our shoffice. It's our podcast studio. So we are, in the middle of lots of transitions.
We are indeed.
We're moving forward. We hope that we can make this
work
kind of the way we want it to be.
Well, that's exactly wherever we've lived, that's what we've tried to do, make it the way we want it to be.
Exactly.
Sometimes that works. In our houses, it works. In our communities, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. But anyway, today we're going to bring you the follow-up to something we did in season 1, and it was the 10 things we hate about rural living. So today...
Right. Which one of them was the internet, which was why we were stuck.
Right.
But hey, now we're working on 10 things we love today.
I try not to go into too much detail about it, and I can do that in my report that I've written about rural internet. But it's crappy.
We think Elon Musk is going to save us. We're hopeful.
Yes.
We've got our down payment. We're excited.
That's exactly right. Well, Elon has certainly started some noise in the tiny home community with the Boxable that he's living in.
Actually, yes, Elon Musk is living in a tiny house
in Texas,
basically,
at
probably
SpaceX.
At SpaceX,
right?
And there's a company that's been prototyping this product, so we will talk about that on another episode.
Right,
it's called Boxable. And we'll talk about Elon Musk and his tiny house.
And, yes, and his penchant for doing interesting things with just saying something about it. I mean, it's amazing.
It changes. If Elon Musk says, hey, I'm going to do,
X.
wear black socks or purple socks, it changes.
Yeah, it does.
He's definitely an influencer.
He is an influencer.
But right now, he's going to influence my life with giving us decent internet.
That's
with
exactly
Starlink.
right. And
I can't wait.
And maybe I'll get to Mars with Elon. I haven't applied for
probably
that.
Not.
But I'd love to go.
Probably not.
So anyway, today we're going to do the 10 things we love about rural living. And
yes.
There are a lot of them.
Yes.
There's more than 10.
Right, but we picked our top 10.
Right, we chose our top 10. And yes, because I like going to the local store down the street from us here to buy stuff. Now, they don't have everything, but maybe that's in the top 10 things.
It might be.
It could be.
We'll have to see.
We'll have to see, because this is a surprise to you and us.
That's not true.
No, we actually
have a list.
Did this.
We have a list. We know.
All right. So number one is the people that live in our community.
Yeah. We really like the people. We weren't sure that we've lived all over the whole U.S. and we were a little nervous because we'd moved to a very small town in Louisiana, and I was working at a big corporate company there. And many of the people that worked for me.
Well, I worked at that big corporate
that's true.
company
You did too. Many of the people that worked for us had never been out of the state.
Right.
And we were just shocked because we are travelers and we go lots of places. We've lived lots of places. So when we moved in this rural community, we were a little afraid that we would feel a little like fish out of water.
Right.
At first, maybe we did a little bit, but we took the time to get to know folks and spend, our daughter kind of started that.
Right.
And with schools and things like that, we found that there are a lot more people like us that are not like us here.
Right. Yes. And that's actually one of the great things about it is that it's, I don't like living in an echo chamber where people think the same way as me and look the same way as me and
if they're all the same as us, then why are we all? We need variety,
right? That's exactly right.
And it would be pretty boring.
And we
if
have a lot
was
of that
just
here.
like us.
We have a
it
lot
would
of
be kind of scary if everybody was just like us.
Right. We have a lot of incredibly well-educated people here. The fastest growing unit of the University of Georgia system is in our town. And we have a lot of people that aren't so educated, and that's okay too.
We even have homeless people that live in the woods.
The salt of the earth. It's so the people are awesome,
right?
And we have a lot of good friends here, but
different than living in a place where everybody is the same,
right?
You have to be willing to listen to what other people have to say, let them believe what they believe.
Right.
You believe what you want to believe, because isn't that really what diversity and inclusion is about? Is it accepting people for who they are?
It's what it's supposed to be about.
Exactly.
So anyway.
We do love the people. We
do.
love our neighbors. We have 4th of July celebrations. We do all kinds of things together.
We love our community.
We have potlucks a lot.
Drink adult beverages and smoke adult cigars. And that sounded
You
wrong.
always have to
we
sneak
drink
the
adult
cigars
beverages
in.
and smoke regular cigars.
You always have to sneak the cigars in.
Well, somebody has to know. I mean,
right.
there's a brotherhood and a sisterhood out there. I don't know if they're in our group or listening, but they're out there.
Ooh.
So, brothers and sisters of the leaf.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So, number 2, as it starts to rain, we have a family compound.
Yeah.
We started this project. Well, we had the idea for it a long time ago.
Years ago.
After reading some books about Roman Britain and a colony that was set up, and it is fiction.
Actually, several of the books that I found that as I would read series of books, the ones that interested me were sort of around families carving out a life for themselves. Right. So I went, oh, that's what I need to be doing.
Well, we call it a compound. It's not like
we call it. I used to call it a commune.
Right, a commune. It's really just a family community. I mean, we've built our community with our family on our property. We've got our one of our daughters. I can't say youngest and eldest, because then the eldest gets
doesn't
unhappy.
Want to hear that.
We have one of our daughters and our 3 grandchildren that live on our property with us. We had talked about building another space for our other daughter, and she did not want to live a rural lifestyle, and that's okay.
With mom and dad, it's okay.
Right, but we do have space when she wants to come visit, and that's a nice thing too. That we have enough room here to add a little bit more living space if we choose to do that. And we've got, of course, a ton of outdoor space that we can add all kinds of things. We have pages and pages of things on Pinterest that we'd like to eventually do here.
Yeah, that's the sad thing about having skills. At some point, you feel like you should keep building.
That's right.
But anyway, we do have a family compound. Now, in cities, lots of people are kind of our cities are starting to give people more opportunity to build what we call ADUs, accessory dwelling units. We'll do another podcast on that, but that is a way that if you're living in a city, potentially you could do it. Not going to happen in the burbs, probably,
right?
But in the city. So it's not just rural now, as things are starting to change and things are starting to loosen up. I think COVID has made a lot of things people really look at living, you know, like how can I live differently? Cities are saying we're getting so much pressure from people who want to live differently, and we're getting so much pressure for reasonable housing, that we're going to readjust building codes and things like that. Why did you do that?
Hi, folks, watch on that camera. Just because I wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
and we're having a big thunderstorm, so you might hear rain. Because we have a metal roof over our head.
Right, and this is our afternoon shower that we get almost every summer about the same time.
Well,
we call it 20%ing because there's a 20% chance of rain.
And we're getting it right while we're podcasting.
Yes.
By the way, just in case those of you that are just starting to follow us, we're in what we call our shoffice. And that's a shed office, and we have all kinds of things that we do in this building. It's an auxiliary building for our tiny house. And you can probably see behind me, we've just added a bed space. So our city daughter can come up and stay. Spend the night. We had another guest that came. Our city daughter has a dog that's difficult. And so she needs her own space. So we wanted to create this for her. We're not done. We'll pick at it, keep getting it, farther along.
It will never be...
I don't know.
100% right.
Right. Well,
because we always look at things and go,
we can add that.
Yeah,
we can change that. That's the problem with having skills or sort of skills. And then we had another sort of family member that came and stayed with us over the 4th. So having those sort of alternative opportunities in a family compound we find really helpful. But anyway.
And before we go on to number 3, if you have subscribed, I want to say thank you very much. We've got some new subscribers out there. So thanks for subscribing to our channel. We appreciate it. And we hope to deliver some excellent content for you.
Yep, we're trying to get better every week.
It's I watch so many videos of all different types on YouTube that are just kind of well, if you plug this section in here and
Right.
you do this,
Barry gets
then
down a technology hole, and
I
some of
do-
those
I
guys
do.
are not necessarily the most personable.
That's right. So we want to entertain you, but we also want to inform you. So we hope you're getting both out of this.
That's right.
All right. So on to number 3. Safety.
Yes.
We do have crime here, and we talked about that in the other one.
And the other one.
But we're much safer here than if we were living in an urban or suburban environment. Mainly because there are fewer people,
Right.
and there's lots of space between us and our
Next
next
door
door
neighbors.
So we have a sheriff that I know. Beth has met him, I think, a couple of times. He's a no-nonsense kind of guy, and his deputies are no-nonsense kind of
Right,
guys.
but because we've met him personally, it's a personal relationship,
Right.
if you will. And if something happens or we need to make a phone call, it's very different than living in a city.
Right.
Nobody in the city would ever know me, right?
Well,
You know what I mean? Like the sheriff,
Well,
even if I called him and got to know him, it
Right.
would be a rare thing.
right, because they know 1.5 million people. And I was
Exactly.
going to say, well, your neighbors would know you in a subdivision, but that's not
No.
necessarily true. Most of our neighbors, when we lived south
In
of
the
here,
subs,
after
in
we
the
moved
burbs.
back from Tacoma, Washington, I mean, they don't even wave to you. I mean,
No.
We had one guy across the street.
So you
but
became
we're
friends
still
with, actually.
friends,
Yeah.
and Austin, if you're listening, hi. But
And thank you for subscribing.
And thank you for subscribing. If you haven't, I'm coming after you. It's rare to find somebody like that. Usually in suburbia, it's you're friends with people you go to church with, or friends with people you work with, or something like that. So you don't really have that. So, and here we're not worried about our kids playing outside.
No.
Now, at no place is as safe as it was, I feel, when I was a kid, because I would ride my bike from Tucker, Georgia to Stone Mountain, Georgia, which is a fairly long distance for a young teenager to ride their bike to go spend the day and play at the lake. I don't know that I'd want my grandkids to be doing that, but I don't worry when they go out and play.
Right. So safety, we do like being here for that.
We do.
All right, cost of living.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Number 4 is generally cheaper. Now, I won't say always because it depends a lot on your choices. It's generally cheaper to live in a rural setting than it is to live in an urban or suburban setting.
Now, we pay a good amount of taxes, but
We do.
remember, we are a small community, not a lot of tax base. Secondarily, we have 2 houses that
Right.
we're paying taxes on. So, of course, we're paying for 2 houses, even though they're small.
Right.
But also, the other pieces that offset that is we have our own water.
Right.
We don't have to pay for that. We do have to pay for trash because, I'm not going to take it to the dump every week. So
Right.
we do pay a private trash company
Which
to do
we
that.
could do if we chose to, but
And I think our power costs are pretty inexpensive.
they are. Our power...
I mean, per kilowatt hour.
Right, yes, they are. They're, because we're a member of an EMC, which is an electric membership corporation, it's lower than if we were getting it from Georgia Power or Alabama Power or
Right.
PG&E or somebody
Right.
like that.
But of course, the big cost of living that's a big saver for us is that we could not live in the space that we live in the burbs. We would be paying a whole lot more money for the cost of we could not live mortgage free in the burbs.
Right.
We'd have a big mortgage. We'd have, who knows, HOA fees, although I would never probably live in an HOA. But that just said connection lost over there. I don't know what that was.
To what?
It popped up on your Mac. It said connection
Well,
lost.
that's fine. There's nothing connected to it. So
Okay. Anyway,
I don't have anything connected
I'm
to that
paranoid
computer right
about
now.
losing our connection because of our silly internet.
Well, luckily, the way we're doing it today is we're just recording directly into both cameras.
Right. We've given up on the whole internet idea for right now.
Well, it's hard to stream. I mean, it's hard to go through something like, this is off topic, but it's hard to go through something like StreamYard because you have to have decent upload speed to get there and have a high quality, or even just go directly to YouTube sometimes.
Right. So we're just skipping all that. But anyway, that's the one thing we hate, and we're talking about what we love.
Yes.
Then, so we also, number 5, we're skipping on down.
Okay.
Number 5, we own our own resources.
Right.
Which really feels good to me to know that I have a well, and I the water goes out. Now, the problem is we don't have solar, and if we lose power, we lose our well.
Right.
But we're working before this next winter with
We're ice and snow, pine trees.
We'll have a generator that we run our well
right.
off
So
of.
we are working on that.
We do usually keep a stash of water just in case. And our EMC has been very fast about getting our power back on.
They have been.
But yeah, we do have capability for solar. The way we set our house up, because we built it, we knew that we could aim it the right way, so we can put solar on it.
And we can essentially do anything we want to do on our land here, which is nice.
Because it's unrestricted. We have we're on an agricultural land,
right.
so we have no zoning that requires that we do like certain size house. Well, they're basic state requirements, but we don't have to build a certain way and a certain look and a certain thing, because we have unrestricted land.
And we can have our own animals, and nobody can say anything about that. So we don't have noisy animals. Well, the dog barks at night occasionally.
Yes, she does.
She barks at everything. But and the goats make noise, but you don't really hear the goats. And the rabbits, they only make noise when we're away.
Yeah, I've never heard a rabbit make much of a noise. But anyway, but we do have all of those our own resources. And if we need to, we could, survive for some period of time if we had to, without a lot of infrastructure.
Right.
City infrastructure. So we do like that, what's the right word I'm looking for? Independence that we have with that.
Right.
Now, there's some responsibility
that's right.
that you also have that you wouldn't have in a city when you just turn on your water. In fact, it was funny, during the whole vortex out in Texas, the whole Texas thing, people were in some of the groups that Facebook that I'm in were saying, why don't you have water? And they're like, because we don't have power.
No power.
And that's, that's not something people are used to in the city. You're just used to turning on the tap.
You don't really think about it. I think people get so used to the fact that they've always got water available that when the power goes up, I have to say, I've been guilty of this in the past. When the power goes up, you go up to the tap and turn it.
Well, and I keep flipping on the light switches, but that's another whole problem.
So
can't get used to that.
Anyway, we have we own our own resources here, and if we wanted to dig for gold or oil, we also own mineral rights.
We could do that. Yes,
I'm not planning on doing that.
Help us much, but yeah.
If it pops up because of a frost heave, not the oil but the gold, then I'll pick it up off the ground. But I'm not going.
Yeah, I don't think we're panning for gold. Right? No.
Okay. Number 6.
This is Barry. I'll let Barry talk about this because he loves this topic.
I just said that we have helpful public servants because, not only is our sheriff's department great, I think they're and I've been associated with a couple of different police and sheriff's departments, and these guys are awesome up here. Not that they're not going to sponsor our podcast, but it would be great to have Sheriff Gerard on one day, maybe. I don't know. But it's interesting the first time I walked in to renew or to get a tag for our new county. I walked in.
Used to standing in lots of lines.
And
very irritated helpers.
They don't. They don't care. They call a number, and you hand over your documents to them, and they tell you how much it's going to cost, and that's the only interaction you get.
Right.
And they never look up from
they're not nice
their computer screen
at all.
Here, I walked into our local DMV office and tag office, and I was in and out in 2 minutes.
Inexpensive ad valorem.
I went in one time to change my tag altogether, and just had a great conversation with the lady behind the counter because it was just there were 2 of us in there as customers, and they had like five people back behind the counter helping if you needed it.
And that's nice, obviously, but when you're in a small area and you're trying to build a house like we were,
right.
And we're just owner builders. We're not contractors.
Right.
We didn't know what we were doing. We built house number 1, sweated it out for almost 2 years to finish that thing. And that was a long, involved tale of why that was what it was. And the guy who would come inspect was amazing and very helpful. Sadly, he passed away. So by the next time we were building our Tuff Shed, they'd never had anybody convert a shed to a house before. And so they worked with us to try to make it work.
Right.
They talked to Tuff Shed and talked to Tuff Shed's engineers, and they worked so hard to try to help us get what we were trying to accomplish. Right. Of course, they were inspecting.
Right.
But they were inspecting not with a point of view that they were trying to
make an X
punish us
in the box.
Right. Or punish us,
right.
like, oh, I hate inspectors. I've seen that so much. They were inspecting to make sure Tuff Shed was giving us a proper place to live.
Right.
And that we were going to not, kill ourselves with the electrical or the plumbing or whatever.
Right.
So, but their point of view was very different than I'm checking you.
Right.
Right. It was, I'm checking to make sure you're living in a safe place.
Right.
And I really appreciated that because we didn't have that experience to know for sure that we were making it safe.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
We did a lot of, I was a crazy person. I did all kinds of research, and now I know way more than I ever thought I did.
Right.
But having these really, truly public servants was really a great thing for us. I've said this before, but we go to school events and things like that, and they come up and hug us.
Right. Yeah,
they're so kind.
It's again totally different than living in an urban or suburban area.
Yeah.
And they were actually with our first house, the inspector was just incredibly helpful.
Right.
He'd say, "Well, you can do that if you want to, but if it was my house, this is what I do."
Yeah.
So he was just making sure that we're building the best home that we could build. And giving us ideas. I that's not what I expected out of an inspector, which is kind of hard to say.
Exactly.
I don't know why.
Exactly.
Expected out of an inspector.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Enough of that. On to number 7.
Number 7, access to anything about an hour or so from the big city.
Yeah, and I do recommend when people start saying, where can I find land? We have a big Facebook group. We've got about 11,000, I think, in our Facebook group.
11,500.
Ooh. So I try to personally answer questions in that group, but then I also am in several other Facebook groups because the reason we do this podcast is to try to help other people figure out how to do what they're doing, what they want to do. And so I do talk about, start your search for land about an hour outside of the city. And I think that's not everybody can, right? Whatever the city is, by the way. It's a little easier in the south. An hour outside of the city in the northeast runs you into another city.
Right.
Right? And then you're running into all kinds of building codes because to live in a tiny house or to live in a shed that's been converted can be very difficult. And we have Radio Tiny House, right? Because we're all living a little differently. And rules were made for the corporate good,
right,
not necessarily for the individual. Right. So we're trying to be individuals and the way we choose to live, and it kind of gum up the works. Right. So we want to make sure that we can live individually, but we also want access to this the amenities that a bigger city offers. So, but you can't do what we did in a big city.
No.
We talked a little earlier about ADUs, accessory dwelling units. It's coming.
Right.
So you can do some of what we've done, but mostly you can't do what we did. So people, as COVID came along and everybody's moving everywhere. Right. People are trying to reassess. So I would recommend, particularly if you move from a city, you like restaurants, you like amenities, you want to go to the ball game, all that stuff.
Right.
Try to live within an hour of a city. So you can have those, but that works for us because we pop down. Luckily, I don't have to drive in the traffic. I can choose to go when I want to. We're just, as many of you know, we live north of Atlanta. Atlanta's got terrible traffic. LA's got, big cities have terrible traffic.
Right.
But if you can pick and choose when you're traveling in the traffic, it makes sense. So we like to have the freedom of living the way we want to live and accessing the amenities when we want to access them.
Right.
And I used to think, those people live in the country, so they don't have the same experiences that I did when I used to live in the burbs or the city. And now I realize that they had had the best of both worlds. We shouldn't tell you too much because we don't want everybody to move out here.
Right.
But they had they could have both.
Right.
They have both, and they are not, what's the right word? Backwards from living not in the city. They're actually probably just enjoying both.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
All
right.
Go.
Ready? Number 8, reasonable freedom to do what we want. We've talked about that a little bit. But no homeowners association, no paint police.
Nope.
No chicken
Nobody's
police.
telling me what kind of color I can paint my door.
Yep.
Nobody's chopping down my plants on my
like
house the that
commercial.
crazy commercial.
I don't
Linda?
No, thank you.
It's a Geico commercial maybe where she chops off the mailbox height because it's too tall, and she chops up the
all I know is the guy just goes, "Thank you, Cynthia."
Cynthia. But
I don't know what it's an ad for.
It might be Geico. I don't know.
Geico.
Anyway, isn't that hilarious that we can tell you all about the commercial, but we don't know what they're advertising?
Yes.
That's a bad plan. That was bad advertising.
So we have.
Go ahead. We also have no chicken police because when you live in the burbs, you can't have chickens. Oh, I missed that.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Our neighbor in Tacoma
had
chickens,
limit
but
you.
she could only have 5.
Yeah.
And here, we have 5, but we've had many more than that.
Yeah.
When our first batch of chickens, and then we decided no more chickens because one of the not our dogs feasted on all of our baby chicks one day.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, when you live in the country. Well, if you live on rural property and you have animals, it's not like having pets. Like, there's a lot of risk out there for them. All right,
so moving on. You ready to move
am.
on with reasonable freedom to do what we want? Okay. Number 9, small town community. We love going into a business and having the owner there.
Yeah. We have a lot of small businesses in our town.
Right.
And
so
we
try
to know
to
some
patronize
of them.
them as much as possible.
Support local businesses. Although we do support Jeff Bezos and Amazon a lot.
Yes.
Because we're Prime members. It's easy to hit that button and go, "Ooh, let's just get that shipped for Amazon Prime. It'll be here tomorrow."
Well, yes, but see, for that kind of shopping, we don't have many of those kind of shops in our area. We could buy stuff like microphones and such at Walmart, or we could buy it from Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos,
so,
right.
At one time or another, we're probably all going to be buying our, Bibles and caskets or whatever when we die from Amazon.
I don't know about having a Bible when I die, but that's okay.
No. I mean, just everything. I'm not necessarily saying a Bible, but I mean, phones, computers, everything will eventually just be Amazon. I think they're going to own the world.
I do too. And in fact, I think you'll be able to buy a tiny house from Amazon. You already can. They're advertised on Amazon.
True.
But then
so
that's
anyway,
a whole complicated
we patronize
thing.
our small, locally owned. Our favorite one right now is a brand new coffee shop in town that young guy started based on a college project that he had going on.
And guess what? It has fiber.
And
so we get all excited with that internet.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yeah, they have screaming fast internet. It's awesome.
It makes us get so excited. In fact, this will probably be uploaded at that coffee shop.
That's probably very true.
That is true. All right, what else?
I think that's it for that. Number 10, our scenic views.
Yeah.
Our scenic noises. We have at night, we have cows that we hear mooing, and we have clean air up here, especially now after a rain. We don't get tied in a whole lot to like the code orange and code red.
We can't burn in our community during the summer because of potential air quality in the city. So we're still close enough that impacts us.
Right.
So we want to have a burn, pile or something. We have to get a burn permit anyway.
It's rare for us to have like a bad air quality day. But we primarily can't burn at certain times because of it may float down to Atlanta.
Right.
I don't know.
But we have beautiful mountain views. I was at Walmart the other day, and our Walmart looks over beautiful mountain views. We're just really lucky that we have that sort of view. But even if you live rurally and you don't have those, like if I was living in at the beach, which is my next house, by the way, I've determined I'm going to have a house at the beach. But even if I'm living there, there's when you're living. Now, I think cities are pretty too. Don't get me wrong. I think there can be beautiful. Those drone shots of, whatever. That's nice.
I've always loved the architecture in Chicago.
Right.
It's an interesting city from that standpoint. Now, they've got some other problems that we're not going to talk about, but it's a beautiful city
Right.
from an architectural standpoint.
But if you I think sometimes when you're living in a rural setting, you take more time to appreciate it because you don't have the other kind of stresses.
Right.
So sometimes, and when we lived in Charleston, South Carolina, I would just drive to work and I'd be driving over the river and be driving over I guess it was the river. And I would just go, I am so lucky where I live. And now I do that here. I am
Right.
just so lucky about where I live. And if you can find that, I just think that gives you extra little bits of joy
Right.
in your day. And I mean, isn't that really what living is about? Trying to find joy
Right.
in your day?
I think, we have, of course, we also have 4 seasons where we live because
Yes.
we're far enough
And we
north.
like that, actually.
I like that.
What I mean, you
for me,
don't want to talk about the weather in Miami because it's the same.
It's the same. For me, I like the pastoral setting that we live in. We have, I looked out the kitchen window the other day and there was a doe with her 2 fawns.
Right, in the
We're
front
just
yard.
walking through the yard.
Yeah, and eating things that we might not want them to eat, but that's okay.
Well, right now, there's nothing in our yard that I wouldn't want them to eat.
Well, we have a volunteer pumpkin plant we
That's
were
true.
hoping for pumpkins, and the deer are very attracted to it.
And I don't want them to eat our blueberries because we had
Yeah.
a goat issue last year with our blueberries.
Yeah. Got to figure out my blueberries.
And during the late fall and in fall and the winter, we have this hill across from us that the previous owners called it Monet Hill because it was so beautiful. But it's just so incredible. I get this really peaceful feeling when I look out at that hill, and there's just cows up there laying down, and you can hear them, and it's a beautiful piece of property.
Right.
And but it's that way all around us. We're not far from the Chattahoochee National Forest. We're not far from bigger mountains than what we have here because we're kind of in the foothills. It's just an incredible place to live.
Yeah, we've been really lucky. The funny thing or the interesting thing is about this property that we ended up with was it just kept calling to me. I saw it on, I don't know, Zillow or something, and I kept coming back to it. And I don't know why. But I kept saying, we have got to go see this. And
Yes.
a week would go by. We've got to go see this. And so, maybe we were just meant to be here.
Maybe.
And, of course, at that beach house that I'm planning on building next.
Yes. Well, I'm
meant to be
I
there,
was
too.
unhappy at first about the property because the property did keep calling you, and sometimes it called in the middle of the night. Anyway.
I don't know what that means.
Well, you said the property was calling you.
Well, it was. I had to buy it. And it was straight out of after the end of the last recession.
Yeah.
And the bank owned it and da-da-da, and we got it for a song. That was also really cool.
Yes, that was really cool.
But anyway.
Anyway, so we
10
feel
things.
we're very happy to be here. We love living in a rural community. We have access to everything. Good people live around us.
But not everybody is just like us.
Right,
And
not
that's
everybody's
the
not like
important
us.
thing to know
Yep.
when you decide to go rural, that you can enjoy the things, but you also have to know that the people that have been there for 50 years are not going to be the same as you. And rather than being critical of that, learn from them and appreciate it, and you'll be a lot happier.
That's exactly right.
That's what I say.
That's what you say. So very good. 10,
All right.
10 things we love about rural living.
That's right.
And we probably could have done 50,
50.
but then it would have been too long of a video.
Right.
So thanks for watching. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do so at radiotinyhouse@gmail.com.
Yep.
You can find us on Facebook under that name, and also on our group page and our Facebook page,
Which
is
is?
Tiny Houses Shed Homes.
Right.
And just stop by. Say
We'd
hi.
love to have you. And of course, if you have any questions and you're trying to build tiny and you want some specific questions answered, we'll try to help as much as we can. Send an email to Barry at Radio Tiny House, and or comment in this
Comment
the
below.
video,
Yep.
and we'll do our best to try to help you solve that. It's challenging, and every county and every community has its different set of challenges.
Right.
So I can't just write a book. I mean,
That's
I am
true.
writing a
You
book.
are writing a book.
But I can't write a book that says, here's the answer.
Right, because everything is
here's
different.
how you need to find the answer. So we're happy to help you try to do that.
That's exactly right. So if you enjoyed today's video, or if you're listening via the podcast, go ahead and subscribe. You can subscribe on YouTube. Hit the like button so you get updates and notifications of when we have a new video out. And if you know somebody that might benefit from this, send them a link.
That'd be great.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.